studied his face. "What did you get a red star for?" I ventured, always curious about his classroom environment. "Do you get it if you run fast?" Rainey laughed, a hearty guffaw that emanated from his tiny belly and up through his throat, as if I'd just uttered the most ridiculous thing he'd ever heard. "Mom, I never get a star for running in the classroom," he said, smirking, large brown eyes dancing. "I get it for sitting still." Sitting still? I immediately recognized the error in my assumptions. In America, a student might be rewarded for extraordinary effort or performance, for rising ahead above the rest. In China, you get a star for blending in and for doing as you're told. It was America's celebrity culture versus China's model citizen. Standing out versus fitting in. Individual excellence versus the merit of collective behavior. The Chinese way was certainly familiar to me, the daughter of Chinese immigrants to America. Yet I'm also a product of U.S. public schools and their culture of personal choice, and as a parent, I wanted good habits instilled for the right reasons, and delivered with a firm but feather-like touch. I began to wonder, were Rainey's teachers instilling the right values? "Why do you sit? Do they make you sit at school? Do you have to sit?" I asked Rainey, my voice increasing in pitch and speed with each query. But my rapid-fire questions were too much for a 3-year-old. My husband, Rob, told me it sounded as if I were saying, "Are your human rights being violated?" A few weeks later, Rainey suddenly announced at dinner, over stir-fried tofu, "Let's not talk while we're eating." "Where did you get that idea?" I said, immediately on the case. "Did the teacher say that?" On this, Rob was also incredulous. "So you can't speak during lunch, Rainey?" "No. Bébé and Memoir were talking and the teacher said, 'Be quiet.' Sometimes the teachers are angry to us," Rainey said, as Rob shook his head. Some of the fondest memories from my Texas childhood come from the school lunch table. There we learned to barter peanut butter for ham sandwiches, negotiate playdates and Friday night meetups, and collect votes for student council elections. And we forged friendships with as much noise as we could muster. Rob also came out of American schools, and I gather he had trouble imagining his own son being subjected to silence over salami. Or, in this case, soybeans. Cultivating a superstar student in China, I'd come to learn, started with impulse control at the earliest age. Jammed into rows alongside his 27 Chinese classmates, planted in a miniature chair, my son had learned to arrange each hand on its corresponding knee, back erect and feet positioned in parallel. He learned never to squirm in his seat or allow a foot out of place, for there was no faster way to draw a teacher's ire. He understood that he shouldn't ever touch the student next to him, talk when the teacher is talking, or stand up for water without permission. Above all, he learned the last thing he wanted was to draw attention to himself. The red star was his reward for sitting mute in a chair, and my son proved a stellar trainee. Though Rainey's toddler talk came out in halting sentences, at home he was clear about communicating one thing. The sticker would not be removed. Rainey brandished the red star at the dinner table, forehead tilted proudly toward the ceiling. He wore it during soccer practice and at a classmate's birthday party. He even refused to peel it off when I tried to wash his face. "No, Mom, don't touch!" he'd yelp as we readied for bedtime. Off to bed he marched, red sticker intact. Were we unwittingly engaged in a battle over our son's mind? "Should we be concerned?" I found myself saying out loud. "Don't worry about it," my husband would respond, though sometimes I saw his forehead furrow too. I couldn't help but worry. Strolling through my Shanghai neighborhood, I observed Chinese children who were proper in public, polite to elders and peers, and orderly on the playground. I sauntered past the neighborhood elementary school at 3 p.m. on weekdays to see parents and grandparents.